everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this particular video, we'll be looking into one of the most important indexing technique, that is nothing but HNSW. HNSW is widely used in vector DBs for searching purpose. Let's first have a look into the official definition of what exactly this HNSW is. So by the official definition, HNSW algorithm, it stands for Hierarchical Navigable Small World. It is a graph based algorithm used for approximate nearest neighbor, that is nothing but ANN searches in high dimensional vector spaces. So specifically this particular indexing algorithm is used when we have high dimensional vector spaces. That means we have huge amount of data with high dimensions. Now this indexing algorithm is a technique which is known for its efficiency as well as accuracy. It makes it a popular choice for the vector similarity searches. Now a lot of different terms are introduced in this particular definition. I'm sure some of them might not be familiar to you. Don't worry about all of them. We are going to look into the details of this particular indexing algorithm in this video in such a way that you will have no doubt understanding it. So without further delay, let's jump into the working of the HNSW indexing algorithm. Now, when we talk about working, to understand the working of HNSW indexing algorithm, we'll first have to break it down. Let's break it by the keywords present inside the HNSW. So, we can simply say that HNSW is a combination of two things. The very first is the subset of keywords that is already present inside the word HNSW, that is navigable small world. And the second thing that contributes to the creation of HNSW is the skipped linked list. In short, I would say that these two concepts, navigable small world and skipped linked list, makes it possible to create an efficient data structure like HNSW, which can further be used as an indexing technique in vector DBs. So let's see the navigable small world first. Let's first have a look at the definition. A navigable small world is a type of network. It is a graph that allows for efficient navigation and search through its nodes. You can think it like graph in data structure where we have nodes and we have connections between those nodes. Now talking about the components or the structure of the navigable small world, we have the nodes and we have the connections that connects these nodes. Nodes represents the data points, that is nothing but vectors. So you can think that one single node is a document in a vectorized format. So nodes are nothing but document vectors, and the connection that is used to connect the nodes is nothing but edges. They are used to represent the connections between the points based on similarity. Now obviously the nodes which are closer to each other will be more similar. The nodes which are not, they will be farther from each other. They are associated in space based on the similarity between them. So I hope you must have got a basic idea of what exactly navigable small world is. By looking at one of its example, it will be very clear to you all. So now we are going to look into the example of navigable small world. So let's say you have certain number of documents. Now what exactly a document is? You can think that a document is one chunk. That chunk which you are going to feed into the vector DB in the form of vectors. I hope you remember we already have discussed different chunking strategies, how to create chunks out of the document for efficient data storage as well as retrieval. If you have not yet seen that videos, do have a look at it in the generative AI playlist on my channel. So let's come back here. Let's say we have certain number of documents. Now those documents can be represented in the form of vectors by using an embedding model. I already have told you in navigable small world, one single node represents a vectorized document. Now let's say after finding out the vectorized formats of those documents, we have arranged it in a vector space, we have plotted it in the vector space, and it looks something like this. You can see that Here each node is a document and they are associated based on the similarity. The edges you can see, they are associated with based on the similarity between the nodes. The nodes which are closer to each other, they are more similar. The nodes which are farther from each other, they are less similar with each other. So this is how this is arranged in a vector space. Now talking about all these documents, how the query search works in Navigable Small World, let's have a look at it. Let's say we have this query vector. Now since this query is represented in the form of node, you can think that this particular query is in the form of vector. Now based on this query vector, we have to find out the most similar document vector from this particular Navigable Small World. So how can we do that? Now we can initiate the search operation of this particular query vector from any one of the node present inside the Navigable Small World. Let's say we start the search from this particular node. Now whenever we start the search in the Navigable Small World, the node from where the search starts is first termed as the current node. Let's keep this particular document vector as the current node so that we can compare the similarity between the query vector and this particular current node vector. So for now we can say that this is the current node. Note one thing, that we are going to find out the similarity between the current node and the query vector. Now to continue the search, we'll have to first check the neighboring nodes. Now for this particular current document vector, you can clearly see that we have two neighboring nodes, this one and this one. So we can highlight them. So we can say them as the neighboring node. Let's consider one at a time. So if we consider this particular query node, so what we'll do is, we have already the similarity between the query vector and the current node. Now what we'll do is, we'll compute the similarity between the this particular neighboring node with the query vector. So we have now two similarities, one with respect to the query vector and the neighboring node, and one with respect to the query node and the current node. We'll check which one is smaller. If the similarity between the query vector and the current node is smaller than the similarity between query vector and this particular neighboring node, then in that particular case, we can clearly say that this particular neighboring node is more similar than that of this particular current node. So what we can do is, we can simply name this particular neighboring node as the current node. But one thing to note, that before naming this particular node as the current node, we also have to look for the other neighboring nodes also. We'll have to compare which neighboring node has the greater similarity than that of the current node and the query vector. That particular neighboring node will be chosen as the current node. Otherwise, the current node remains as it is and the current node will be outputted as the final answer for this particular query vector. So I hope you are getting an idea. Now let's say from these two neighboring nodes, we have this particular neighboring node more similar than that of the current node and query vector. So what we'll do is, we'll simply name this particular node as the current node now. Now once we are here, we can now say that we have now new neighboring nodes. Now pause the video and tell me which are the new neighboring nodes for this particular node. Okay, now let me tell you which are the neighboring nodes for this particular document vector. So firstly, I would like to clarify that this node and this node will now no longer be neighboring node of this node, because we already have compared the similarity for these two nodes. So we cannot traverse back here. Rather, now we have two new neighboring nodes. One is this one and one is this one. So we'll simply highlight them. Now again we'll do the same operation. What we'll do is, we have already the similarity between this particular current node and the query vector. Now what we'll do is, we'll compute the similarity between this particular neighboring node with the query vector and this particular neighboring node with the query vector. Whichever similarity is greater will shift the name of the current node to that particular neighboring node. So let's say in this particular case, this particular node is more similar. This particular node is having more similarity than this particular neighboring node. So we'll name this particular neighboring node as now the current node. Now again, for this particular current node, we have one single neighboring node and this is it. Now what we'll do is we'll compute the similarity between this particular neighboring node and the query vector, and we'll check whether this particular similarity is greater than the similarity between the current node and the query vector. So let's say that the similarity of this neighboring node with the query vector is not greater, which means it is smaller than the similarity between the current node and the query vector. So what we'll do in this particular case, we'll simply keep the current node as the final output, and this particular neighboring node will now no longer be used for comparing. This particular document node will be outputted as the final answer. So I hope the navigable small world working is clear to you all. This is how we search in the navigable small world and we get the output. So by this example, I hope the navigable small world logic is clear to you all. Now let's have a look at the drawbacks of navigable small world. The very first drawback is local optima. Now let me explain you this particular drawback with the help of an example. Let's say we have this particular navigable small world and we have one query. For this particular query, I already know that this is the document vector which is most similar to this particular query, and this has to be outputted as the final answer. Now let's start the search operation. What we'll do is we'll simply create this particular node as the current node and we'll continue with the search. Now what happens is when we keep this particular node as the current node, the neighboring nodes will be these two. So you can see this particular node is one neighboring node and this particular node is another neighboring node. So what we'll do now, we'll simply compute the similarity between this neighboring node to the query vector and this neighboring node to the query vector. Now obviously by looking at the graph, you can see that the similarity of any of the neighboring node with the query vector will be lesser than the similarity between the current node and the query vector. So in such scenarios, what will happen is we now no have any neighboring node to which we can shift the current node. So this particular node will remain as the current node, and since this is the current node and there are no new neighboring nodes which are more similar, then what we'll do is we'll simply output this particular current node as the final answer. But ideally we know that this is the most similar node that has to be outputted. Now using this particular NSW technique, we cannot reach to this particular document vector. We are stuck here, and this problem is nothing but local optima. This problem is sometimes called as the early stopping. So I hope the drawback of NSW is clear to you all. Now that we have seen the NSW algorithm, now let's jump into the second concept that supports the HNSW algorithm, and that is nothing but skip linked list. So let's first have a look at the definition of skip linked list. A skip list is a data structure that allows fast search, insertion and deletion operations. It is essentially a multi-level linked list where each level allows skipping over multiple elements, thus reducing the time complexity of operations. Yes, this particular skip linked list is used for faster search by introducing the concept of skipping. So here multiple levels are constructed, and as we move above, the number of connections reduces, or I would say the number of skips increases. Now this particular linked list is known for its faster search, for insertion as well as for deletion operation. So I hope the definition of this particular skip linked list is somewhat clear to you all. Now let's jump to the working of this skip linked list. How it works, let's see. So this is the example. Here we have the hierarchies. We can say this as levels or layers. You can see we have 4 layers here. This is termed as layer 3, this is termed as layer 2, this is termed as layer 1, and this is termed as layer 0. H here represents the head. That means this is the initial phase of starting the operation. And E here represents the end. That means here the linked list operation ends. Now between this head and end, we have multiple documents. You can see here that each bar is one document. We have a document 1, 10, 25, 28 and 40. Now you might be wondering what exactly are these levels. So just see horizontally. When we talk about layer 0, you can see we have total 5 documents over here. Level 0 contains all the documents that are present inside the corpus. That means every single document will be considered at level 0. Now, as we move a level ahead, that means at layer 1, you can see that we have only 3 documents instead of having 5 documents. Now, why we have only 3 documents? Because we intentionally put lower number of documents to skip the search, just to avoid things like linear search. Similarly, as we move up at layer 2, you can see we have only 2 documents, and again at a higher level, that is layer 3, we have only 1 document. Now, which document has to be considered at what layers is decided randomly, or it can also be decided by parameters. So I hope you must have got an idea of what exactly these bars are representing and how it is represented in layers. Now, when we talk about head, every single operation starts, every search operation starts from head. Here we have connections between the horizontal layers. You can see these are the connections. Now, talking about at the lowest level, that is layer 0, you can see each document is connected with each other. Since there are all documents present, that is why. Now, at a higher level, since there are only 3 documents, we have lesser number of links. Again, you can see at higher level to this, we have lesser number of links, and at the topmost level, we have the lowest number of links. Lowest level contains more connections and highest level contains less connections. That is more skips. So I hope this structure is clear. Now let's see how the search operation works. We are going to search for the document 28. So here is the query that is to be searched. Here we want the document 28 to be retrieved from this particular data. So as I already said that the search operation starts from the head. First, the current pointer will be at the head. Now at initial level, we simply check horizontally whether the query that is to be searched, that is nothing but 28, is greater than the next document node at the same level. So you can see the next document node at this particular level is 25. We know that 28 that is to be searched is greater than 25. So what we'll do is we'll simply jump from this particular node to this particular node. Now the pointer will point here. Now again we'll do the same thing. We will check whether 28, that is the query to be searched, is greater than the next node that is at the same level. Now here you can see the next node is end. Now since the next node is end, we cannot jump here because it's the end. So in this particular case, what we'll do is we'll simply move down. We'll simply move one layer down. So now the pointer will point here. Now again we'll do the same thing. We'll check at the same level whether the query vector, that is 28, is greater than the next node. Here again we have encountered end. So what we'll do is we'll simply move one level down. Again the next node is end. So again we'll move one level down. Now here you can see we have reached at layer 0. Now again at this particular level we'll check whether the next node to this particular current pointer is greater than 28. Over here you can see that the next node is itself 28. So what we'll do is we will have to shift this particular pointer to here. So we have got this particular document and this will be returned as the final output. So this is how skip linked list works. So I hope this particular example of skip linked list is clear to you all. Now we'll have a look at the drawbacks of this particular skip linked list. So over here the drawback is reverse searching. Now if you look at the structure of this skip linked list, you can see the arrows are unidirectional. That means here we perform forward search. Now what if the document that we want to search does not lie at the start or at the middle, it lies at the end? So in that particular case, it has to perform more operations. It has to invest more time for searching. So this lets the slow search. So this is one of the drawback which I felt to discuss with you all. This can be solved by introducing doubly linked list, where we can have bidirectional arrows where we can search from both the ends. So I hope the drawback of skip linked list is clear to you all. Now that we have seen both the concepts, navigable small world and skip linked list, Now let's dive into the HNSW algorithm working. Now it will be crystal clear to you all. So without further delay, let's have a look at the working of it. So let's say we have some number of documents. Each document is represented in the form of node, and the connection between those nodes represent the similarity between the documents. You can see it can be represented as this. These are the documents and these are the connections, that is nothing but the similarity between these two documents. Now here you can see that this has been introduced from the navigable small world. This graph is created from the concept of navigable small world. Now let's combine it with the skip linked list. How we can do that? We can do that by simply introducing the concept of the layers. So let's say that this particular graph is present at layer 0. Now similarly we'll have multiple such layers. At the lowest layer, I already told you that we'll have all the documents. Now when we move a layer ahead, that means a layer above to this particular layer, we'll have lesser number of documents. We can say that those lesser number of documents are representatives of all the documents that are present at the lower level of it. So let's say we choose some documents to be present inside the upper layer to this, and also let's keep a track of the projections of it. So this connection represents that this document is chosen to be present at the higher level of it. This document, this particular document, this and this document is chosen to be a part of the next layer. So you can see the next layer contains these documents, and this is depicted as layer 1. Similarly, one more layer above this particular layer will contain lesser number of nodes than this particular layer. So again we'll have their projections. We have chosen these 4 nodes as a part of the above layer. So let's construct that. You can see these 4 nodes are now a part of layer 2. Let's have one more layer, and in that we'll only keep 2 representative documents. So these 2 are the representative documents and they are going to be a part of the layer 3, that is the highest layer. So here you can clearly see that as we move up, the number of documents reduces. At the bottom we have all the documents that are present in the corpus. Now let's initiate the search operation. Let's search for the closest document for the query vector. Let's say we have this particular query vector. Now as stated in the skip linked list, the search operation will always start at the highest level. So what we'll do is, in layer 3, we'll first initialize one of the node as the current node. So let's initialize this particular node as the current node. Now for this current node, in the same layer, we have only one neighboring node. What we'll do is, according to the navigable small world, we'll compute the similarity between the neighboring node and the query vector and the current node with the query vector. Now we have the similarities of these two. Whichever is greater will name the current node to that particular node. Now over here, let's say the similarity between this particular neighboring node and the query vector is greater than the similarity between the current node and the query vector. So what we'll do is, we'll simply name this particular document vector as the current node now. So this is now no longer a neighboring node, this is the current node. So now this is the current node. We'll first have to find out the neighboring nodes of this current node in the same level. Now in this particular level or in this particular layer, we don't have any other neighboring nodes to this particular current node. So what we'll do is, we'll move down a level. That is, we'll now shift from layer 3 to layer 2. So this is now going to be the current node. Now in this particular layer 2, we have to find out the neighboring nodes. So for this particular current node, we have only one neighboring node. So let's highlight this. What we'll do, we'll compute the similarity between the current node and the query vector and this particular neighboring node with the query vector. Whichever similarity is greater, we'll name that particular node as the current node. So let's say that the similarity between the current node and the query vector is greater than the similarity between the neighboring node and the query vector. So that is why we'll keep the current node as it is Now since for this particular current node we have no any other neighboring nodes, so what we'll do is we have to move one level down. So we'll now shift from layer 2 to layer 1. And note one thing, that we have to follow the projections. So this particular node in the layer 1 will now called as the current node. Now when we talk about this particular current node in layer 1, we have two neighboring nodes to this particular current node. Again, we'll simply compute the similarity between these nodes with the query vector and we'll check which similarity is greater. Whichever is greater, we'll name that as current node. So let's say that this particular neighboring node has greater similarity. So we'll shift the current node to this particular node. Now for this particular current node, we have only this particular neighboring node. We don't have these two because these two are already visited. So now let's say after computing the similarities between these two, after computing the similarities of these two nodes with the query vector, we found out that the neighboring node is having smaller similarity than the current node. That is why we'll keep the current node as it is. And since we have no new neighboring nodes, so we'll move one level down. So now this particular node in the layer 0 will be called as the current node. Now for this particular current node, we have 4 neighboring nodes. We'll do the same thing. We'll compute the similarity of all these particular nodes with the query vector. Whichever is higher, we'll make that as the current node. Now after computing the similarities, we have found out that this particular node has the greater similarity. So we'll shift the current node to here. So this particular node is now called as current node. Now for this particular current node, we do not have any other neighboring nodes, and that is why we will stop here. We do not have any other neighboring nodes, as well as we are at the lowest level, so we cannot move a level down. So that is why we'll stop here, and this particular current node will be outputted as the final result. So this is termed as the closest document vector to this particular query vector. So this is how the HNSW algorithm works. I hope through this particular example, all the doubts are clear. If you have any single doubt, then you can straight away put it in the comment section. Now since we have seen the working example of this particular algorithm, we'll now have a look at the benefits of HNSW algorithm. So the benefits are as follows. The first is efficiency. HNSW algorithm significantly reduces the search time for high dimensional data. As you can see that it combines the approaches of the NSW and skip linked list. That is why it is faster. It reduces the search time for high dimensional data. It is widely used in most of the vector DBs nowadays. The next benefit is scalability, as it easily handles large datasets effectively by a multi-layered graph structure. Next is accuracy. It provides a good balance between search speed and accuracy. If you talk about one indexing algorithm that has higher speed as well as higher accuracy, then I would suggest HNSW. So I hope the benefits of HNSW algorithm is clear to you all. Now that we have seen the benefits, now let's move on to the drawbacks of HNSW algorithm. So one of the drawback of HNSW algorithm is higher memory footprint. So if you would have seen the structure of the example that I have shown you, in that we have the layers. Each layer contains connections. It contains document vectors. So obviously, as the number of layer increases, the amount of memory required also increases. So that is why HNSW algorithm has a higher memory footprint, and that is one of the drawback. The second drawback is the parameter tuning. Now this algorithm contains certain parameters which has to be chosen wisely. If not, then it would create chaos. So that is why finding out the best parameter is little difficult. It differs based on the use case. The third drawback is implementation complexity. As with higher memory, since it has a layered architecture, its implementation is little complex than the other indexing approaches. So I hope the drawbacks of HNSW algorithm is also clear to you all. With this, we come to the end of the video. I hope this particular video was very clear to you all. I've almost tried every single technique to make every single concept clear to you all. If you guys have any single doubt, then you can straight away put it in the comment section. I'll be happy to solve it. For more such videos, do like, share and subscribe to my channel. Also hit the bell icon and don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Please join me on Telegram. Thanks for watching. Have a good day ahead.